Watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have the pleasure to feature the second piece from Second Hour Watches. Now I reviewed the Gin Clear Diver, not just me of course, many other reviewers on YouTube and elsewhere also featured it. They actually distributed it pretty generously and kindly for us to feature, and I think that's gone on to launch pretty successfully. But now they are coming up with their second watch, which I'm pleased to say is not a diver and has, I think, a lot of positive features to like about it. Now this watch comes in this travel pack, in a fabric travel pack, which is, you know, pretty cool. Quite a nice and practical thing to have, which I usually like when companies provide it. So guys, without further ado, let's flip the camera around and take a closer look at today's piece. Alright guys, so here we have the packaging on the table, fabric with kind of stitching to show the brand name and the logo, which is fairly pleasant on this travel case here. Okay, so let's just talk about spinability. Very good actually. This is at least a 4 for a fabric case, which is probably the best spinning fabric case I've seen so far, thanks to the low friction. Alright, so let's see what's in here. Now, this release will come, I think, at least with a seatbelt NATO. This is a prototype, so it doesn't even actually have the brand name on any of the hardware here, including the leather strap. But, you know, there are leather strap option add-ons. This looks like emery leather, but I might be mistaken about that. I haven't actually tried this on with the watch because, in my opinion, the bracelet just wins out that much more. So, you know, the options are there, but I think this watch will suit the bracelet just, you know, much more than those straps. So that's just my personal opinion. All right, let's just get this open. And now to show you guys this particular watch in closer detail. So this is the Second Hour Mandala Automatic, the second piece from Second Hour Watches. I reviewed their diver, you know, their first watch some time ago now, and this is finally the long-awaited, or at least I've been awaiting what they will come up with next. So this will come up on Kickstarter in the near future. Maybe by the time this video comes out, who knows, but you know, all links down the bottom for you to check out. I've been told that the early bird price will start at around $420 with the eventual MSRP being around $560. So okay, that's the discussion in terms of the price point for this watch. It will come in a number of dial color variations, including classic black, I think there were green, as well as I think a blue. I'll try to put a screenshot here to show you what other options there are. But this one is of course none of those. This is actually what they call a salmon dial. It's probably a little bit different from other salmon dial you've seen, because there's a kind of a steel reflectivity in this, but this is the designation that this colorway will be given. All right, first up guys, let's as usual talk about the movement in here. So what we have in here is again a 9039 series Miyota with no date. I've had a flurry of these movements. Perhaps micro brands are, you know, catching on that, you know, us enthusiasts want to see no date movements and high beat movements. So the 9039 fits that niche fairly well without being, you know, as costly as a Swiss made. So all the stats down the left of screen, you guys probably won't be new to this. Pretty good rated accuracy, and in use this is running only slightly slow, about -3 seconds per day in the, how many, I think it's actually about 10 days I've had this running on average now. Okay, so now moving on to the case. So the case here is a very classic 40mm diameter, 316L steel. Now the bezel itself is, hopefully you can appreciate, slightly narrowed than the case itself. The bezel is 39mm if you measure just the bezel diameter there between my thumbs there. There is a 800 HV Vickers hardness rated coating, so there will be a protective coating on production models. I'm not sure whether this one has it, but you know, the advisement I've had is that there will be a protective coating. So that is actually a good thing. So, all the watches I've had that has had that coating really do prove to be much more scratch resistant than just naked 316L stainless steel. Thickness is quite a pleasing 10.6 millimeters as measured by caliper to the top of the crystal there. Lug width, of course, with this watch you would expect to be 20 millimeters, and that's what it is. And the lug-to-lug distance is actually pretty good as well. It's only 45.8, so under 46 millimeter, which is a pretty good lug-to-lug distance, meaning it'll fit almost anybody, or at least most guys that I know, will be able to carry this quite easily. Overall weight, surprisingly, on steel bracelet is also fairly light. It's only 116 grams with about 3 links that I've removed from the bracelet to fit this on my wrist. Of course, if you change it to one of those other straps, the leather or the seatbelt NATO, it's going to be considerably lighter. It'll be under 100 grams, I would say. Okay, on to finishing. So, alternating brush and polish surfaces is what we have here. So the bezel starts with a polish edge at the top, and then there's brushing down the side there. Longitudinal brushing on the case at the top as well as the side with a polished bevel. Hopefully you can appreciate that. The under bevel is actually more obvious, that polish there, and then circular brushing for the undersides of the lugs. So fairly nicely done, and those bevels are actually pretty elegantly done. I like the finishing and the quality that they've put in here. Circular brushing for that screw down display case back, and that is also a sapphire crystal for the display window there, and it's got a screw down sign crown. Right, this crown doesn't have lume, but the production models will actually have a crown that's filled with lume, so that's another addition for the production model. With those sealing features, including the screw crown, the water resistant rating here is 100 meters. All right, so let's move on to the dial now, which is a lot of the attractiveness of this watch as well, not just the case. So here we have a sunburst cross-hatched salmon colored dial, right? There's a cross-hatching pattern. I don't know if there's any other word for that pattern in the middle, but that kind of evokes the name of this watch, which is Mandala, kind of this circular pattern art pieces that you might see in certain cultures, including made out of sand. So this is what that is, I think, supposed to evoke. It's got raised black detail, including the second hour logo, as well as the word Mandala in the bottom half of the dial. But it does have applied multifaceted indices, and if you look at these shots, you can see there's a differential finishing, including brush and polish on those indices, which are pretty nice. It's got a chapter ring on the flange, plus it's got minute markers, 5, 10, 15 on an additional ring on the periphery of the dial, which also houses the cantilevered indices at the 12, 4, and 8 position. So kind of those triple indices, which is what Second Hour did with their first watch, and which I suspect will be a little bit of a trademark or hallmark of their pieces going into the future. The hands are diamond cut polished hands with an arrow seconds, and those hands are completely custom. Of course, I've never seen a hand like that with those double tips at the distal end there. Not sure what shape you call that. This is actually relatively unique. I suspect there's actually no name for this shape. There are lume applications on all the hands and all indices, including the 3 cantilevered indices as well. And I'll let you see a lume shot right here for how it looks like in the dark. The application on this prototype is actually pretty good. It does last throughout the night, which kind of bodes well for the production model. Okay, so above the dial is a flat sapphire crystal with a beveled edge there. That's really what we're looking at. 6 layers of internal anti-reflective coating is what they've told me. Moving on to the bracelet then. So this is also pretty good. 9-piece per link, brush finishing on the top here, polish on the side, and it also has screw link adjustment. It does taper to 18 millimeters from 20 at the case. It's got solid ends and a fully milled push button release clasp there, which is pretty nice. Brush finishing, polish on the bevel there, second hour there, and it kind of clicks pretty nicely with a 3-point micro adjust as well. Right, okay, so that's the entire description of the watch. Let's snap it on the wrist for a wrist shot for you guys to see now. So there we go. The second hour watches Mandala automatic on my 17 centimeter wrist. And as I say, because that lug to lug distance is less than 46 millimeters, 40 millimeter case and 10.6 thickness, I think just about any guy I know can carry this very easily. It's a very classic proportion size, okay? Not very thick, and that lovely bracelet, that's how it sits on the wrist there. Right, what have I enjoyed? As you can see, the way I've gone on about this, I do enjoy this a lot. There's a lot of good things. I think it's an interesting and different offering from a micro brand with a rather attractive dial. This is really quite a good looking dial in my opinion. It's got restraint. They've actually held back on that 3 indices there, so it doesn't jump out as much as the diver they had, which I guess some people didn't like. I think this one is a lot more restrained, a lot more subtle. It's got great case design, being short lugs, broken upside there. You got the bezel, a fairly slim side of the case rather than a slab, and then the case back there. I like it how they've kind of designed this case. It's quite attractive, and as you see, 10.6 millimeters, not very thick at all, which is appreciated. And then an original looking bracelet. Now, ultimately, this may still be a Chinese OEM, but it's not common, and I'm not sure I've seen one like this. So I quite like that they've gone for that 9-piece per link with a milled clasp. Kudos to them for giving us a good bracelet with screw length adjustment. Overall, I think this is a pretty good quality package. It's a go anywhere type of water resistant with a screw down crown. I wouldn't hesitate to take this into a pool or the beach. They've kind of mandated this to be a watch that you can take to the boardroom and go to a cocktail bar. Perhaps it's a little bit too fancy for the beach, but again, I wouldn't hesitate to take this underwater. And then they've given a protective coating, which is always appreciated, does add to the resilience of the watch. And then on top of all that, the movement is pretty good. A good solid 9039 Miyota with a no date movement, so no ghost date position. Again, good choice. What are the concerns? What are the things that are, I guess maybe slight weaknesses? Not much to say. I say the hand shape, this unique hand shape, it doesn't have a point. So it may not be a favorite for some, and some people may not like that. I don't mind it, but I can imagine that some people may not like that hand shape. And then I would say that dial, it feels like sometimes when I look at it, there's one too many rings around the dial. There's a chapter ring and then there's a minute marker. One of those is superfluous. Perhaps a design without that much busyness might be better. I don't recognize that all the time. It's only sometimes I look at this, I feel, okay, maybe it's slightly busy. That's just a personal opinion. And then I guess objectively, the price may be of concern to some. The full MSRP 560, the early bird above 400, the competition at this price range, extremely challenging. You can get some Swiss watches or watches with Swiss movements. So this is what this watch will be going up against. And I still wish them all the best because I really think this is a good watch, but I think that is going to be of concern because you're really coming up into quite a lot of competition here. And that's it. That's really all I have to say about this watch. Some minor gripes and a lot of good things to like about it. That's my thoughts on this piece. Let's flip it around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys. My review of the second hour Mandala automatic watch. I think there are a lot of strengths in this piece. They've really put in a lot of thought, and I think some of the features are very fair. But let me know what you think about how it will do on the market, particularly with the competition in the micro brand space in this particular price point. I think that's the main hurdle they have to get over. But I think at the same time, this is a pretty darn good piece, and I think overall it's a better piece than their first watch, the Gin Clear Diver. At least I would say I like it for the fact that it's an everyday watch and it's not a diver, and there is a degree of beauty and versatility to it. But as always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.